It's story time. Chapter 3. Joshua Tree. Have you ever encountered an intelligent beam of light? My friend has. We'll call him Arthur. This is his story.
Yeah, so actually every year, a group of us go down to Joshua Tree, California, and take psychedelics and kind of get back to nature and what's important, and kind of understanding, that work's not important, and your relationship with the planet and your consciousness is what's important. So we go down every year and do that. And our most recent trip, we had some very interesting things take place while we were there. There's about 7 of us that go down. And we had this really amazing property down there that was, I guess, probably like 5 acres. And they had built a small replica Western town on the property, which was really amazing. They had like a saloon and a train car and just a beautiful, beautiful property. So when we got there, we, stayed over the first night. No big deal, nothing crazy. And then the next day we got up and the sky was just like unbelievably gorgeous. So we took some pictures out on the property. Remember this for later. And then decided to go for a hike. So a lot of the guys took some mushrooms at that point and started hiking. I did not at that point because we had, you got to have somebody Sherpa the group a little bit. So was kind of looking out for everybody, and we went on this great hike a couple hours and then came home and started hanging out at the house, having some drinks, just talking, listening to music. And around midnight, my friend Kenny and I decided to go outside and have a conversation. And, the other thing I forgot to mention is this property was backed up against like a nature preserve. It's like thousands and thousands of acres of just nothing, just no one around. And so Kenny's a big guy. He's like really buff, very intimidating looking dude, not someone that you would think would get easily scared. And so we're chatting, and he had his back to the house and I had my back to the desert. And when you're talking to somebody, you can... they're locked eyes with you, and mid-conversation, they kind of drift past your head and look beyond you. Well, Kenny did that, and as soon as he looked beyond me, his face kind of just went blank, and he looked terrified, and he was like, oh my God, what is that? And I was like, what? And he's like whispering to me, like, look, what is that? What is that? And so I turn around, and I would say probably like 60 to 70 feet away from us, up on like a slight slope in the ground, is this like pure white orb the size of a basketball floating, I would say 6 feet off the ground. And the thing that was interesting is when I turned around to look, and as soon as I saw it, all the sounds of the desert and everything kind of went, and it was just, I could only hear myself breathing, and I could only hear my friend Kenny talking, and everything else kind of fell off, if that makes sense. And so as soon as I saw it, it was pure white light, and like, when you squint your eyes and look at a light and you can see like the refractions kind of coming off, there were like orange and blue and green and purple and all these weird colors coming off of it and kind of shooting off into single little spurts. And my immediate reaction was to like go to it. I wanted to like walk out and see what it was. And then Kenny started getting really worked up in a quiet way. What is that? What is that? What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And, that kind of got me a little worked up. And what we noticed is that it was slowly coming towards us, like very, very, very slow. But what was cool is that underneath it, you could see that the ground was illuminated from the light it was giving off. So, couldn't have been someone walking with a flashlight, because you would see the movement of the hand, and it's a very distinctive look. So it just keeps coming. And then I look to my right, and on the property, probably about 150 feet away, was another one. And that one was just sitting there. And, I said to Kenny, I'm like, Kenny, look, there's another one. And he's like, oh my God, what do we do? And I'm like, I don't know. So Kenny, just out of nowhere, just yells, hey! And it stops. And then it starts going to the left, really, really slow. And at this point, I'm kind of getting panicked, and everyone else is in the house, and no one else is out there. And, in my mind, I'm like, well, we're on mushrooms. Maybe I'm hallucinating, but I'm like, if I'm hallucinating, how is he seeing it? How is it responding? There's another one. Like, we're both seeing all of this stuff. So I kind of ruled that out. So I was like, I got to get everybody. So I jam over in the house. I was only about 5 feet away from the door, rip the door open, run inside. Everyone's kind of dancing and talking and stuff. And I'm like, yelled like, everybody, you got to get out here right now. Right now. You got to see this. And like, you know, everyone, of course, is like, whoa, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, no. Like, there's something going on out here. You have to come out here. And so everyone comes out and it's gone. And I looked at Kenny and I'm like, Kenny, what happened? And he's like, dude, as soon as you went through the door, they both just disappeared. And I was like, what? You know, and so then at this point, everyone's like, oh, okay, guys, and just, you know, whatever. You guys seeing stuff. I'm like, yeah, but we both saw it, like, you know, and I don't know what it was. And like, you know, describing the way these sounds changed and how I felt and the way it was moving. And I looked at Kenny and I'm like, Kenny, what was that? And he's like, still kind of panicked. But now that everyone's there, he's like a little more loose and kind of going back into that vibe of like, oh, it's fine, you know? And he's like, I don't know, man, the desert's a really weird place. And so we went inside, and I actually went inside and got a flashlight and went out and looked for footprints or, you know, and there's just nothing out there. When I first looked at it, I was totally intrigued. It felt welcoming. It felt warm. I didn't feel any fear at all. And like I said, my first inclination was to just go to it. You know, I was really feeling like very welcomed and loving, and, you know, it was strange. And, you know, once Kenny started kind of getting worked up, that really affected my mood, obviously for obvious reasons. But, you know, I think if he wouldn't have been there, I probably would have walked to it, or if he would have had a different set of emotions on his side, that I would have gone to it. But I just let that affect me a little too much, I think.
So earlier in the story, Arthur mentioned that he and his friends had taken photos on the property. After reviewing them the day after the lights appeared, he spotted something odd in the photos. 2 orbs, right in the spot where they had seen them the night before.
And then the next day, we were going through our photos from that yesterday during the day, and we had taken pictures right by where we saw this thing. And in 2 of the photographs, there's a green orb right by Kenny, and it moves from one photograph to the other. And, you know, I guess you could argue that it's a light refraction, but it doesn't look like one because you can see artifacts in front and behind of it. So it's just really, really creepy and weird. And I showed that to everyone, and they were like, holy shit.
To see the photos Arthur is referring to, visit storieswithsapphire.com.
So yeah, that was that, and never found out what it was. That's all. And, you know, we've gone to Joshua Tree before, and I've definitely seen things in the sky that I can't explain. But this was like the first time that it was something super close. And I called the property manager and asked if, you know, hey, I know this is going to sound like really, really weird, but we had some like interesting stuff happen last night. I'm like, has anyone ever reported seeing anything they can't explain? And he said, well, it's the desert, and there's a lot of Native Americans are around here, and you know, a lot of people think that this particular part of the desert, Joshua Tree in particular, emanates a lot of energy, and, you know, I don't know what it was, but I'm glad that you had something happen. So, but the thing is, the funny thing is like Kenny, you know, I would call him pretty much every day after that trip for like 2 weeks straight to just talk about it, because it kind of felt like it changed me a little bit, like opened my eyes up to, like, you know, I'd always kind of believed in that stuff, but having something like that happen was like really eye-opening. And so I wanted to talk about it. And as time went on, Kenny, I don't know if he got sick of talking to me about it or didn't want to deal with it or what, but just basically said like, there were probably headlights, dude. I don't know. And I don't want to talk about it anymore. So I don't know. I don't know if it's like not rationalizing it or just wanting to put it out of your mind. But yeah, that's the weird shit that happened to me in Joshua Tree.